Hi, very warm welcome to Dusty Shelf Collectibles. Today, a bit of a scrap heap challenge. So, I've got this very tired old Princess Loco. I was at a train fair. This was a box on the floor, scrap box. Paid £1 for it. So, plan today, I can't, I can't make it any worse. So, I'm going to tear it apart. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to see if I can get it running. Then I'm going to repaint the body. And then I found in my scrap bin a tender for it, and you can see that's seen better days as well. Somebody's had a good old go at painting their own colours on there. So again, clean that up, we'll paint it over and see if we can get this looking and running beautifully. Just a little bit of a challenge, and yeah, we'll see how we go. Well, what a state this is in. It's covered in dust and absolutely filthy. So let's pop it over to the test track, and I'll just demonstrate that it doesn't work and doesn't move before we make a start on it. So putting the power through this, you can see me turning the dial there. There is absolutely nothing at all. So a complete scrapyard case. So I'm up for the challenge. Let's go and see what we can find. Okay, so as you see, nothing at all. Absolutely nothing in there at all. Doesn't move at all. So completely scrapyard case, and going to be a little bit of a challenge, I think, to get this one running. So just before I start, again, to point out these videos aren't instructional or not meant to be. They're just me having a bit of fun, challenging myself, and just putting it out there in case it interests someone else, and not intended to give any guidance or any instruction of how to do things properly. If you want to do that, if you want to understand how to do these, then there's lots of YouTubers out there that really do know what they're doing. Anyway, that said, let's get this stripped down and see what we've got. I'm going to actually remove both of the bogies here, that one and the pony truck. Let's get that off of here. So like I say, I paid the grand total of £1 for this Loco, and the tender's actually something that I had lying around, so I'm guessing this is probably a 1970s Loco. You know, it's just yeah, it's marked as Triang in there. So wow, what a mess. Right, where do we start? Let's start stripping it down. Magnet feels quite strong. I'm just going to remove the brushes out of there. That's alright, let's come out. Didn't see the going of the other brush. Where did that go? That's there. Okay. Right, what a mess. Now I am going to remove all of the wires out of this. I may actually rewire this one. Cool, yeah. It's definitely seen better days. I think what I'm going to do is go and give this a clean first, and yeah, give this clean with some soapy water first before I do anything else. I'll give that a clean over. It's come up a little bit better, but I'm a bit worried that this motor has had its day. So what I'm going to do is drop the brushes back in there and just power it up to see if it is indeed a problem. Let me just clean the brushes off. That's a bit better. Let's do this one. I'm just using a spray cleaner. I don't want to use it over my white card because it goes absolutely everywhere, so hence why it's off camera. Right, let me just slide these brushes back in. Right, let's just go and put a little bit of power through this and see if we've got any movement. Right, so just putting a little bit of power through the motor to check that it's going to run. Not the strongest of motors, but it is running. Okay, let's persevere. Right, take the brushes back out. Actually, I'll leave those in. They're okay as they are. Right, I'm just going to strip this down a little bit further because it's so rusty and horrible. Right, let's take that crank off. Let's do this side as well. I'll slide those out. Right, I'm going to take the motor back out. I'll clean these by hand, I think. Right, I'm going to use emery cloth for this because they are really, really grubby. So let me get some. Okay. So one of my viewers recommended actually putting the motor back in the Loco, running the wheels and putting some emery cloth on there. Now, I tried to do that, wasn't very successful, so I've come up with this method and it seems to be working. So this is just a polishing mop from a Dremel, and I'm going to put that on the opposite side wheels. Turn the wheel. And you can see, well, it's starting to clean this wheel on this side. I've done those two, so I'm just going to carry on and finish the rest off. So that has been rather successful. You can see I've done this side, and as I say, it's just a polishing mop or polishing head off of a Dremel set. Just resting it on the opposite side wheels to give the motion, and then just gently touching the wet and dry paper onto the wheel. I did find adding a little bit of WD-40 underneath it made a big difference in the way that it was cleaning, but hopefully that's coming out on camera. You can see the difference in the wheels. It's come up beautifully. So yeah, I'll carry on and do the other side now. Right, I'm going to try and clean up these crossheads or rods at the front here. Well, it's not come up too bad, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and clean this now with some soapy water and toothbrush, and actually put it in my ultrasonic cleaner for a little bit and see if we can remove the rest of the grime off of it. So while that's in the cleaner, I'm going to clean these con rods up. Looking like new. Well, that's cleaned up quite nicely actually. It's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Quite pleased with that. So I'm just having a look at these wheels, see if I need to do any more with those. Let's have a closer look. No, I think I'll leave well alone. Well, that's come up a treat, and you can see I've given the wheels a little bit of a coat of paint just to bring them back up and make them shine and sparkle. So while the other bits and pieces are in the cleaner, I'm just going to clean off the two trucks here and see if we can get them looking a little bit more presentable. Right, so let's start assembling this back together. So I'm going to start with the crank rods on one side. Let's put that one in there. Right, I'll just put the crossheads back in. Let me just clip on the front here. It goes. Right, start again. Cool, that was a palaver. Spacer. And the screw fixing goes through all of them and into the wheel. Perfect. Right, let's do the other side. Push in there. That looks really nice. Right, I'm just going to give the motion a little bit of an oil. I mean, obviously these are Triang models; they're not to the standard of the modern Hornby engines in any stretch of the imagination, but still good fun. Right, that's looking far different from what it did a few hours ago. Right, now I am going to rewire the engine, so I'm just going to get the soldering iron out and resolder a new piece of wire onto here, and then we'll get that back in. Right, that's that one done. Put the soldering iron away. Okay, right. Got a little insulator plate to go on for the pickups. Okay, let's slide this on. Make sure I get it up the right way. Okay. Let's drop this motor in. Okay. Goes on there, and then we've got a screw on the back here. That's it. just grab the soldering iron again. There's my tweezers before I burn my fingers. So we slide that over in there, and then this slides over the wire like so. Oh, knock the brush out. Okay, let's go see if it runs. Okay, let's give it a little bit of power. Oh, it's hesitating. Well, it's moving, which is good. Still a little bit of hesitation there. So I think if this Loco had any sort of intrinsic value and wasn't a scrap heap find, I would invest in a new motor for this, because the armature, the brushes are right on the limit of, you know, use now. You can see inside, I don't know if the camera's focusing in, but it's, you know, they really are completely worn out. The armature's completely gone. So yeah, if it was, well, we'll see how the train finishes off. If I get the body up nice and good, then I might invest in a motor for it. But you know, as I say, it's an old Triang one. It's not particularly valuable, and this was just an exercise in seeing what is possible. Right, let's get these trailing wheels and the lead wheels back on. That goes on the back here. That's on front. Right, well, that's the chassis complete. So let's have a look at this body. Now, what I want to do with this is, I think I'm going to try and de-seam it, as you can see along the top here. So I'll rub that back, and then I'm going to, well, I'm going to repaint it. I'm going to repaint it. I'm going to find some buffers for it, and see how we go. See if we can make this look a little bit better than it does at the moment. And then the same with the tender. I mean, it's definitely seen better days. So yeah, we'll get this cleaned off, rub this back so it doesn't bleed through the paint, and again, see what this looks like. Right, so I've convinced myself that the tender's actually glued together, so I'm not going to disturb that at all. I'm just going to paint it as is and try and make good, rather than making a bad situation into worse. So let's put that to one side. I'm going to go and give this a wash, see what we've got, and get all the muck off of it, and then we'll see how we proceed. Right, what I'm going to do, just with a little bit of wet and dry, I'm going to take, if you can see the seam that runs down the middle here, this was a moulding where the two halves of the tool went together. I'm going to see if I can remove that and try and get rid of that blemish, and then give it an undercoat. Now sadly I'm going to lose these decals on the side here. They are coming off. I will try and put something back on there in the future, but yeah, I'm going to lose those because I am going to change the colour of the train. So let me go and do that, and we'll see how we get on. That's a tender rubbed back. Yeah, I wish I could get it apart. I went to try and prise the wheels out as well, and I've decided that's better for that as well, because I'm going to end up breaking something. So I'm going to have to paint it as a complete unit. So what I'm going to do, dust this over with the undercoat, just everything, just make it all white, and then start again with the paint colours, and yeah, see where it takes me. Oh my word, it was going so well. So undercoated the tender, rubbed the sides back, looks good, sprayed in the base, all looking good. Moved on to the Loco Body, all looking good, absolutely perfect. Got impatient, so put it under a heat lamp for a few seconds. I then got called to look at something or do something around the house and forgot it was under the heat lamp, and look what happened. Oh dear, oh dearie dearie me. So yeah, these things happen. It was only under there for, you know, it was only meant to be under there for a few seconds, and instead I left it under there for about 10 minutes, and you can see what's happened. And I was actually quite lucky that it didn't do more damage in terms of catching fire or worse. So I've had to go in search of a new body. So this £1 Loco, which I was trying to breathe some life back into, unfortunately has cost me a little bit more than that, but these bodies do seem to be readily available and not terribly expensive. So just waiting for that to be delivered, and then we'll pick this up again. But one thing is, don't ever say I don't share my mistakes with you. Right, so the replacement body's turned up, and you can see here it's got a little bit of damage on the chimney. So I think what I'm going to try and do is slice the chimney off of the old body that I melted, and replace this chimney on here, see how that goes. Well, it's reasonably successful. The chimney's on there, that's glued on. So next step now is I'm going to go back and with this body, as I did with the previous one, just try and take these seams down a little bit, just so they're not so obvious. And I know it's a common technique, but take some wet and dry paper, just stick it onto a piece of wood, gives you a nice flat surface, and allows you to work with the, you know, use it almost like a file. I've always found that to be quite effective. So I'm going to take this over to the sink, because I am going to do it with a little bit of soap on here and some water, and let's see if we can make this look a little bit better. Right, so I pulled the old decals off, rubbed back on the top here to try and de-seam it a little bit. So I'm now going to go and dust it over with some undercoat, and just see if this shows through, and whether I need to do any more gentle filling and sanding on the top there. Well, there you go. That's undercoated in a white primer there. As I say, I stuck the chimney back on there. It doesn't look too bad at all. There's some very slight marks on there, but they won't show when it's in black. And I've got the tender all prepared. That's all masked up, ready to go. Now, on one of my previous videos, I was saying about the Tamiya paint, Tamiya spray paint, this kind of thing. Quite expensive for what you get in there. So I mentioned about mixing my own paints, which is what I've done with these two colours. So there's a red and a blue. So mainly red. I've just put a tiny bit of blue in there, and what I'm trying to get is the sort of crimson colour that the LMS Locos were on. It's a little bit too dark, but it's not too bad. And what I'm going to have a go at is airbrushing this this Loco. So I've got my scrap body here. This is the one that, as I say, I left under the heat lamp and melted. So I'm going to use this as a practice, and yeah, see how we go with an airbrush. Right, so let me just talk through the airbrush. This is actually my son's. He does a lot of model kits, so I've just borrowed this off him. I'll just show you this. This is a very small compressor, but it's full of air. And with the airbrush, what you do is you put the paint in here, and then this button on top here, you push it down, which gives you the air, and the further you pull the lever back, the more paint you get. So I've never done any of this. This is completely new to me. The paint I've mixed up, as I say, I've mixed those two paints together. I've got a kind of colour there that's reminiscent of the LMS red. Now mix the two paints together, it's mostly the red, tiny little bit of blue, and then about half again of thinner, so it's a little bit watered down. And I put a tiny bit into the hopper, like so. And let's give it a go. Right, so you push the button down and you put it back to get some paint on there. Yeah, you can see it coming through now, look at that. I'm very pleased with that, look at that for a finish. Lovely. Not sure about the colour though. That's the only thing. I'm actually quite happy with that. It's a little bit off colour, but I think it will look pretty good. So I'm going to have a go at spraying the sides of the tender and see how we get on. So I'll just again put a little bit of paint in here. All right. With that, let's go for the body and see how this goes.
You see, I don't know how good your eyes are. When I get a wet coat down,
Yeah.
you spray air, it all just glazes off.
That's it.
Like it just evaporates. Yeah. So you can get like the next coat down almost like immediately.
Yeah.
You see anything, Aaron?
No, that's right. Don't you?
Oh, I just did it.
Well, I'm quite pleased with how it's come out. It's yeah, it's not perfect, and yeah, it's to my usual standard, which is just about okay. But I'm actually quite pleased with it, and considering, you know, I suppose a week or so ago, this was in somebody's scrap bin, it's looking pretty good. Albeit I did have to buy that second body. So I managed to acquire some decals off of eBay. These were about £2.30. Don't know what they're going to be like, but as I say, I found a seller that was making these, printing these. You can see it here. Triang and Revived is the brand. So I'm just going to get some water and cut those out, and we'll see how they go on the Loco. Now, before anybody says anything, I'm fully aware it's the wrong number, but in the big scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. these decals aren't ideal. I mean, I think they're great for the price, but they're certainly not at the level that you'd get from, you know, some of the other proper retailers like Foxed or whatever. Even touching them, you can mark them. They're not particularly robust. The edges, even cutting them, I've tried cutting them with a knife, cutting them with a scissor, and you can see you get this white edge just down here, and that white edge goes across onto the Loco, so I will go round with a pen or something just to try and hide that. But again, you know, for what I want, which is, you know, a scrapyard Loco, just again reminding that it is a scrapyard find, just a project. It's nothing more than, it's not a particularly special or expensive Loco, and for that reason these are perfectly adequate. You know, they don't look too bad at all, do they? Little bit dull, but yeah, really pleased. It's looking good. Now, all in all, I don't think that's turned out too bad. I was going to do some shots with it running around the layout, but with these larger flange wheels, to be fair, it's just bouncing across the point, so it doesn't do it any justice. So I thought what I'd do is just run it up and down my test track, just to show you that it is all working quite happily. Back in the other direction. So I guess just to round up on this, so I mean, as you saw, I made a complete and utter mistake putting the original body under a heat lamp. I can't believe I did that. I've done it many times before, but as always with life, you get called to do something else and then forget it's there. And when I came back to it, as you saw, it just singed itself and melted away, which was a shame. So this scrapyard find, which should have been, you know, I actually paid £1 for this. It was a scrapyard find, and I had the tender kicking around in a spares box. Should have been a really cheap Loco, but I ended up buying a second body for it, which was you know, £6, so it's not the end of the world. Yeah, I think it's turned out all right. It's not perfect, but it's to my usual standards, which is, it'll do, you know, as my son says, a 10-footer. If you look at it from 10 feet, you won't see the difference. And the decals on it, actually, I was a little bit concerned when I was putting them on that they wouldn't look right. I think the colour match is pretty damn good. And when they've gone on there, I've just dusted it over once they've set, and you know, they're firmly stuck on there. I've just dusted it over with a little bit of gloss paint, and they really do look quite good. And as I say, for a couple of quid off of eBay from the Triang, I can't remember the name of the company now, I haven't got it in front of me, but yeah, you'll see it on the video. I think they're actually pretty good, and yeah, they don't look too bad at all. So all in all, quite a successful project. I mean, I did it purely for something to do, not to try and make this into any train that it was never meant to be. You know, they're not the most detailed Locos anyway, but I've spent a bit of time. I'm not particularly happy with the way the handrails turned out, but then I'm not that perfect painter. But I've done silly little things like in the cab in here, I have tried to catch some of the dials and things just with a little bit of paint. I don't know if that's shown up on the camera. And then on the tender, you know, I've things like I've picked out the foot rails and I've painted in the top there, just to try and add, I know it's, you know, fictitious and fictitious colouring and what have you. And obviously, as I mentioned in the video, before anybody points it out to me, I know the number's wrong for the Princess Elizabeth. It's just what these decals had on, and for the, you know, for this Loco, it really doesn't matter. It's it was just a little project. So anyway, I hope that was of interest, and yeah, we'll leave this one there. If you haven't subscribed, please do have a look at the other videos and consider that. And if you can like this one, I'd be really grateful. And yeah, we'll leave this one there, and thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.